to the TIFC YouTube channel. We're on episode 23 of the Premier League Appetiser show. So guys, if you're new around here, I'm Coach Indy. On today's episode, we're talking about the end of the January transfer window, all the last minute deals that happened, incomings and outgoings, all that kind of thing. We'll also be talking about other news, which is quite a lot of news that sort of made the headlines, if you like, for good or for bad. Touching on some of those things, running through the game week 22 results, and then also looking ahead to game week 23, and then we'll also be talking about Indy versus the rest of the world. But before we get stuck into that, guys, I need you all to hit the subscribe button. It just takes 1 second, guys. It really does help the channel grow. Leave a like and leave a comment at the end of the video as well, saying what you like about the video and what you would like to see more of. So we'll start off with other news, guys, and there's loads to talk about, so I'm just going to dive straight in. First thing is, remember Andre Villas-Boas, the ex-Chelsea manager? He might have been Spurs manager as well, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, he's a manager of Marseille at the moment. So anyway, during the January transfer window, whilst that was still open, he offered his resignation to the club because the club purchased a player that he did not agree with. So the player was Celtic's Oliver Nitcham. So basically, like I said, Villas-Boas said to the club, I don't approve of this player. The club went and purchased him anyway, so he offered his resignation. And he made that public as well, he made that public to the press. So anyway, that sort of happened, and then a couple of days later on, Marseille have now suspended him from his position. So that's kind of the state of play at the moment, which I think, I mean, if the thing with this situation here is if Villas-Boas knew the circumstance, he knew what hand he was dealt before coming to the club, i.e. he knew this would be the situation, that the powers that be above him would have the final say on transfers, and he hasn't got a leg to stand on. However, if he was told something otherwise, then I 100% agree with Villas-Boas and his stance, but we probably won't know until probably a book comes out in like 20 years time. So just going to move on. We spoke about Joel Matip last time, that he picked up an injury, ankle ligament damage. So that's been confirmed. It's also going to be confirmed that he's going to miss the remainder of the season as well. So that's a massive blow, considering the fact that Joe Gomez and Van Dijk are out, and they're relying on sort of Henderson and Fabinho and some of the younger lads as well, Nat Phillips, etc. However, just a little bit of positive news for Liverpool. The Europa League and the Champions League squads had to be announced as of yesterday, and Liverpool have included Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez in their Champions League squad. So maybe, you know, if they get to the semis, to the final, those players might be available. I'm guessing that's what Liverpool are thinking. And so yes, that's some positive news for Liverpool on the back of some negative news from Joel Matip, should I say. This is another interesting one. Remember Sebastian Haller used to play for West Ham. He signed for Ajax for quite a substantial amount of money. I think this is a clerical error, guys. So what's happened was, again, just going back to yesterday, like I said, all the clubs had to, across the whole of Europe, had to submit their squads for Europe. So Ajax are in Europa League. Haller wasn't named in the squad, which was really, really bizarre. So anyways, I think it's come out and someone's made a clerical error. The Ajax are now talking to UEFA and the equivalent to the FA over there, so the Dutch FA, if you like, to try and sort of get this error sorted. So hopefully he will be available to play for Ajax in Europa League. Some really negative news, some more negative news, guys. I keep being the bearer of bad news. This news sort of come out today, which I thought was really, really horrible to hear about. I was to make sure I get this correct. So NHS staff receive threatening phone calls after Chesterfield players receive vaccine. So basically what happened was, obviously everyone knows that there's a hierarchy, if you like, in terms of priority for who's getting the vaccine in the UK, i.e. the elderly, the ones who are above certain ages, etc., or more vulnerable. Anyway, the Chesterfield players have received the vaccine in one of the hospitals, and now the NHS staffs have been received threatening phone calls saying, why have you given the footballers who are, you know, fit and healthy, 20, 30 years old, the vaccine? So that's really, really horrible to hear, because the NHS are doing a wonderful job, and they're just doing their job. At the end of the day, they've been told what to do. They have no say on what happens. It's the powers that be above them that say, demand the instructions. So, but yeah, that's really horrible to hear. So my heart goes out to anyone who sort of received any of those phone calls. It's not very nice to hear. Even worse news, guys. This is really, really horrible as well. So there's an Englishman called Stuart Baxter. Some of you older people who have watching this video will know who he is. I didn't know who he was. But he's English. An Englishman, Steve Baxter, has been sacked from Indian Super League club Odisha after using an offensive analogy about rape. So he's managing this club in the Indian Super League, Odisha should I say, and used an analogy about rape in his post-match interview. So the quote was, I think he was frustrated because his team didn't get a penalty. So the quote is, I don't know when we're going to get a penalty. I think one of my players would have to rape someone or get raped himself if he was going to get a penalty. And that's really strong comments sort of coming out. And obviously the club have looked at that and thought that's not good from a media point of view, and they've obviously got some negative press from it, and so he's been sacked from his position, which is, in this day and age, you can't be saying stuff like that. So regardless if it's an analogy or not. So yeah, guys, that kind of concludes actually all the other news. We just whiz through that. So we'll just move on to the January transfer window now. We'll whiz through some of these ins and outs. So ins to start with, Willock from Arsenal has gone on loan to Newcastle. Moses Caicedo, who was linked with Manchester United quite heavily through the window, he has joined Brighton on a perm. Joshua King has joined Everton, which is a good bit of business for Everton. I think he offers good sort of versatility in the advanced areas and probably less reliance on DCL to sort of score the goals and maybe just be able to rotate him a little bit. And the young lad Maja, who, if you've watched the documentary Sunderland Till I Die, he's a young lad who sort of broke through the academy and was given opportunities in the first team and did quite well. On the back of that, he got moved to Marseille or Bordeaux, one of those teams in France, where he's now gone to Fulham. Ben Davies and Kobach have signed for Liverpool. That's not the Ben Davies Spurs. Ben Davies of Preston. That is a 25-year-old from Preston, a left-footed centre half, joined Liverpool. They obviously have got an injury crisis in centre back at the moment. Minamino has joined Southampton on loan to the end of the season. I think that works well for both parties given their circumstances. 3 deals have gone through at West Brom, which expects Sam Allardyce to be doing his wheeling and dealing, given the circumstances they are in the position they're in the league at the moment. So Maitland-Niles has joined on loan from Arsenal. I'm sure he'll probably play centre midfield. A lad called Yoxalu, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I don't know who he's from or anything like that, but he's signed. And Degana as well, he's also joined on loan as well, so that gives them a bit more presence as well in their team. And the last one to talk about is Ben Rama, who is at West Ham. He joined on a initial loan from Brentford to West Ham in the summer window. However, because they've got 2 loans from 2 Premier League clubs at the moment, and they want to bring in Jesse Lingard, they made the Ben Rama one a permanent deal a little bit sooner, so he's actually signed on a permanent deal to West Ham, which is a good bit of business for them. Outs, so you've got Rojo, who's gone to Boca Junior, Mustafi's joined Schalke, Yedlin's gone to Galatasaray, Shane Long's gone to Bournemouth, Valerie, the right back at Southampton, has gone on loan to Birmingham, Gazaniga's gone on loan to Elche, and Winston Reid, I thought he'd retired, if I'm totally honest, but he will apparently still at West Ham, and he's gone on loan to Brentford. So they're the outgoings, guys. I think the window's shut now. All clubs at both ends of the tables now have got their hand, they've got their tools, if you like, to either win the Premier League, get into European positions, or stay in the division as well. So this is it until the end of the season, and good luck to all the teams and the managers. Going to move on to game week 22 results now, guys. So first game we're going to talk about is Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. So both teams had won their previous games, so it's a good opportunity for one of these 2 teams who are in and around, flirting around relegation, not quite sort of directly above it, but that next sort of category above. So it's an opportunity for one of them to win back-to-back games, and it was Palace who came out on top. Newcastle actually went 1-0 up quite early with John Joe Shelby scoring with a Callum Wilson assist. Then goals from Riedewald and Eze actually scored a goal as well, the young lad who joined in the summer. He's done actually quite well this season in terms of goals and assists. They turned it around and won the game 2-1, so it's a really vitally important win for Palace, and just puts more pressure on Steve Bruce, despite them picking up a W against Everton the other day. So moving on to Sheffield United versus West Brom, and this game finished 2-1 to Sheffield United. And we spoke about this briefly in the last episode, how this was such a big 6-pointer, and if West Brom won it, then I think I made a prediction, should I say, and said that I think Sheffield would finish bottom in the league and that's them done. However, Sheffield United won this 2-1, and really, really important win for them. And I can imagine Sam Allardyce is absolutely vexed about this game, like massively, because it's a rival that he's lost to, and it's an opportunity for them to win points and try and claw them closer to the teams above the relegation zone. And that's Chris Wilder's 3 wins. I mean, they didn't win a game up until 5 games ago, and now they've won 3 out of the last 5. So it gives them a glimmer of hope as well. And I think they're now right on the coattails of the likes of Fulham and West Brom as well. Wolves versus Arsenal. Now, Arsenal had 2 men sent off in this game, and it doesn't tell the whole story. David Luiz, unjustly from what I've heard, got sent off. Very similar to another red card, which we'll talk about in the next game. And also Leno got sent off as well, which I haven't seen that incident, but everyone seems to say that's the right decision. Everyone I'm talking about is in terms of pundits and what you hear on social media. And then it's actually Nicola Pepe who scored the goal. He's actually in quite good form in terms of goal scoring at the moment. Lacazette assist actually put Arsenal 1-0 up. But then goals from Martinez, and I think Pedent scored as well, turned it around. And that was actually a much needed win for Wolves as well, given their circumstance and their sort of sliding down the league, if you like. Moving on to the biggest game in terms of goals and in terms of the highlight as well, if you like. On Tuesday night, which was Man United versus Southampton. This finished Manchester United 9. Yeah, it's Manchester United 9, Southampton 0, guys. Now, obviously, everyone knows Southampton lost last season 0-9 to Leicester. For them to go and lose the next season 9-0 again, or by 9 goals, should I say, doesn't look good on the players, the club, and even on the manager, if I'm totally honest. I mean, that shouldn't be happening, regardless of the circumstance. So, just run through the circumstance. A young lad, Jankovic, I think he was 18, 19 years old, has been given a debut in centre midfield because the team's so depleted with injuries. He gets sent off in the first minute or 90 seconds. Horrible tackle on Scott McTominay. He could have seriously broken his leg if it was a fraction lower or around his kneecap area. But thankfully he was okay, and that was from then onwards. It was really about just Man United. When can they score the first goal? And it took them about 15 minutes or so to score a goal, 15-20 minutes. And then from there onwards, it was just attack after attack after attack after attack. Danny Ings had to move into midfield, and he wasn't comfortable there. But literally, I think most players were on the score sheet. You had Martial come off the bench, scored 2. Bruno got a goal. Rashford got a goal. Cavani got a goal. McTominay got a goal. Wan-Bissaka got a goal. Dan James got a goal. So yeah, literally, there's just literally a hatful. So really, really good result for United as well, and not just because of, against the opposition, they're a decent team given the circumstance and how well sort of Southampton have done this season, but just to quieten the perception of their little mini slip they've had the last couple of games. I was just saying to AJ actually this week, that who's my brother incidentally, Spurs went top of the league early in the season. As soon as they got top, they went a massive run and lost a few games and dropped lots of points. Chelsea did that, very similar. Liverpool have done that, dropped down. So all them teams have all dropped down. The only team I felt like could happen to Man United, if that was a third game where they didn't win, then the question marks would have been there. So just that's now quietened sort of that theory down a little bit as well. Moving on to Wednesday, you had Burnley versus Manchester City. Goals from Sterling and Jesus. We won't talk about that game too much. Man City are just on fire, haven't conceded a goal in, I don't know when the last time was, guys. So let me know in the comments section, when was the last time Manchester City conceded a goal in the Premier League? I've got a feeling it might be like November or something, I don't know. It just feels like it's forever, but it probably isn't quite November. Just someone let me know in the comments, I'd be intrigued to know. Fulham versus Leicester, Maddison with 2 assists in this game. Inacho got to start this game, scored a really good header actually, and by all accounts played quite well as well. And then James Justin, who I spoke quite highly about in the last episode, how he sort of adapted to the Premier League like a duck to water, and he scored a popped off a goal as well. So good win for Leicester. That keeps their momentum going. It puts them actually into 3rd in the league, one position ahead of Liverpool, which we'll talk about in a minute. Leeds versus Everton. Now I saw about 10 to 15 minutes of this game, and it was an epic 10 to 15 minutes because the game was literally a basketball match, which you kind of expect with Leeds because they're just gung ho. But to be fair to Everton, they played their part in that as well with counter-attacks galore. And there's one instance where Everton had an attack after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and the shot went wide, and literally 2-3 players just went their hands on their knees, and they're all just absolutely knackered because they're just not used to that frenetic pace. But Everton come out on top, and there's 2-1. DCL back on the goal scoring charts. Sigurdsson scored, and then also Rafinha scored for Leeds as well. So no alarm bells for Leeds. They'll come back. They always do. They're not going to change their style. And a good win for Everton because that keeps them in the hunt for the Champions League positions, and that's probably overachieving, but certainly the Europa League positions as well, given the fact they've got games in hand as well. Aston Villa versus West Ham. I did watch this game. I actually thought Villa would come out on top just fraction, maybe like a 2-1 or something like that. But it turned out to be 3-1 to West Ham. Souček is just a goal scoring machine. I heard a statistic yesterday in comms. They said since the arrival, so he joined the club last January. Since his arrival, out of all midfielders in the Premier League, only Bruno Fernandes has scored more goals than him, and Bruno Fernandes scored 20 goals. So I think Souček has something like between 10 and 15 goals, which is ridiculous, considering he's not like a 10 or a winger, either. He's a centre midfielder. So yeah, Souček scored. Jay Lings obviously made his debut for West Ham. He scored a brace, brilliant. So happy for Jay Lings actually, given the circumstance he's experienced during his personal life the last year or so, which is well documented. I won't go into that just now. And then Ollie Watkins has continued his decent form, scored another goal as well. So he's got the sort of 3 and 3, maybe 3 and 4. But Villa didn't really play well in that game either. They normally have phases of play, and Grealish normally is quite dominant, but Soufal played brilliant, I thought, and actually quite good tactics from David Moyes to recognise to play 2 right backs outside to nullify their biggest threat. I thought that was quite good tactic from David Moyes. I don't think any other team's done that this season. And we'll move on to the surprise result of the midweek round, which is Liverpool versus Brighton. It finished 1-0 to Brighton. I think Alzati scored the goal. And I was flicking through this game as well, guys, and every time I looked up, it was just Brighton had the chances, or they certainly, I was saying to AJ again, they beat the press. That's the key to playing Liverpool. You can't just, as soon as you win the ball back in your defensive third, think, right, we're going to hit a long one, and then just hope something happens. You've got to play your way out of it. You've got to make 2, 3, 4 passes, get out the press, because then once you pass beyond that midfield, especially at the moment where with their defenders or the lack of central defenders, Henderson and Nat Phillips, you're on to a good one that you can really cause some damage, and that happened quite frequently yesterday. And I will say Brighton deserved the 3 points, and I think Jurgen Klopp actually came out and said that they didn't deserve anything from the game. So that's just when you thought Liverpool would turn the corner with back-to-back sort of wins. That's a massive slip, and given the next game they've got, which we'll talk about later on, that's a real body blow for them. Talking about Brighton, I don't want to sort of not talk about them and their great achievements. That's, I think, 4 clean sheets in a row, and they picked up 10 points from the last 4 as well. That's a really good form to sort of stretch their distance between them and the relegation zone as well. And I've always liked Brighton as well, and Graham Potter, because they do play the style of football I like to see. I won't say the right way, because there is no right way in football, but it's just a way that I like to see. Brave, possession type football, playing through the thirds, and a very technical based game. And then moving on to the Spurs-Chelsea game, which has just finished early this evening, and this finished 1-0 to Chelsea. A goal from Jorginho from the penalty spot, so he's now back on pens, guys, after Werner missing a penalty, I think, in the FA Cup. Remember, Jorginho was on penalties earlier in the season, and he's missed 3 already this season. On the back of that, Werner was taking them, and then he's missed 1, so it's back to Jorginho. I'm sure he'll probably be on them until he misses 1, which, judging by his record, won't be too long. But Spurs are just so... Harry Kane was so influential in this game. Someone said to me earlier on today, Spurs can't be this bad if one player's missing, i.e. Harry Kane. They can't be this bad. And I was like, well, no, they can be. But so I flipped it and said, well, rewind back a year and 1 month ago, or 2 months ago, Man United was horrendous, and then all of a sudden Bruno come in, 1 player, and now they're brilliant. So the opposite can happen as well. 1 player goes out and they're awful. And thankfully Harry Kane's not up for too long. He'll probably be back in the next week or so, 10 days. So he'll only miss 1 or 2 games more. And hopefully Spurs can sort of just navigate their way through that. But they lacked so much in terms of going forward and penetration. I mean, you look at the players, they've got Bergwijn and Dembele and Son. You think that's a decent amount of penetration there. But they just failed to demonstrate that. And I don't know if that was down to game plan or confidence levels or tactics. It's hard to sort of detect early on, but Chelsea absolutely deserved to win this game. They were massively on top. They didn't create a hatful of clear-cut chances, but they had enough chances to certainly win by more than one goal. Going to move on to game week 23 fixtures now, guys. The early game is Aston Villa versus Arsenal. Now, I think this will be a good game for both teams in terms of it being quite basketball-type football, if you like, because both teams like to play that. Villa are in, I think, better shape in the league, as well as sort of team selection and consistency-wise as well. And also given the fact that Aubameyang's, we're not sure if he's going to be in self-isolation still. We don't know if, Darren Wesley's going to be suspended, and Leonard's going to be suspended as well, so they're quite depleted in certain areas as well. So I think this will be quite a good game. Obviously I won't mention any predictions just yet because we'll do that next week. Burnley versus Brighton. I can see this being a 0-0, guys. Both teams are in relatively decent-ish form. They've had good scouts. Both teams have beaten Liverpool at Anfield recently as well, which is quite interesting. And they're both around sort of the 15th, 16th mark as well. So probably a slightly bigger game for Burnley given they're at home. Newcastle versus Southampton. This is probably, you could argue, the two teams are least in form, other than maybe West Brom and Fulham. These two are sliding down the table massively. So this is a massive game, again for Newcastle and Steve Bruce, but also for Ralph Hasenhüttl because of the 9-0 demolition against United and them being so depleted. One thing I will just mention actually, the Bednarek red card, he got sent off at 6-0, obviously gave away a penalty and got sent off. His red card has now been rescinded, so he's now available for this game, so it does give him one extra body available for selection in this game. Fulham versus West Ham then, so you've got a London derby. I mean, West Ham are in terrific form at the moment. I think they're up to, the 5th in the league, maybe 6th in the league after Chelsea's win today. Scoring a lot of goals. They've scored a lot of goals away from home as well. They've scored 3 quite a few times, which is unusual. So they're scoring goals for fun. And Fulham, traditionally, if you exclude the Leicester game, their last game, they lost 2-0, they've been actually quite hard to beat. They've drawn a lot of games over this sort of, say, a 10-game block. However, I do think because of West Ham's quality, they'll probably edge this game. Souček, Antonio, all these types of players, they're on really good form at the moment, so I expect them to come out on top. Then you've got Man United versus Everton. Me, obviously being a Man United fan, I'm obviously hoping Man United win this game. They're going to be flying into this game after winning 9-0. Obviously Everton have won their last game as well, beating Leeds, which is no mean feat. But they've had one day less recovery. They make less rotation in the squad as well. They're quite consistent with their personnel. Having said that, they'll probably make a couple of changes in the back line. It's a big game for both teams actually, for Everton to keep that sort of momentum going and they maintain their league position, but also for United to sort of put that pressure on Man City, who play Liverpool, which we'll talk about in a minute, the next day, so they can put a bit of pressure on them. Moving on to Spurs versus West Brom, which is the first game on the Sunday. Obviously we touched on Spurs. They've just lost to Chelsea. Will Harry Kane be back? I don't think so. I think he'll probably be back for the following week. And obviously West Brom just struggling to pick up any type of meaningful points at the moment. So you expect Spurs, despite their recent blips, to come out on top in this game. Be interesting to see how West Ham's new signings do actually. First game in, does Allardyce just chuck them all in and say, right, you're playing, we need you right now, kind of thing. We don't know. In the reverse, this fixture actually a really late goal from Harry Kane, who nicked the game 1-0. So maybe it could be another tight game, but I won't hold my breath on that. Wolves versus Leicester. So we've got a Midlands derby there. Obviously Wolves won in their last game, and I think they've drawn against Chelsea 0-0 recently as well. So they've had a little sort of mini turn in results recently. Versus Leicester, who are high flying, 3rd in the league. They might even have Jamie Vardy and Ndidi back for this game, so that makes their squad even stronger going into this sort of phase into the season. And obviously we spoke about James Maddison, who's absolutely flying at the moment. Harvey Barnes is flying at the moment. You've got Pereira, who's now back. He's played a decent amount of minutes the last 2-3 game weeks. James Justin's flying. The centre halves always available. Schmeichel. They're just a well-oiled machine, and that's for me is all down to Brendan Rodgers. Because he's for me, he's a world-class coach and manager. And I'm sure that'll raise some eyebrows to you viewers. In fact, guys, if you do disagree with that statement, or even if you do agree with it, actually, just get in the comment section. Let me know. Like, is that a really outlandish statement, or is that? Would you agree with that? Do you not agree with that? And give me some reasons why. Give me some. Don't just come out with no reason. Just don't say yes or no or whatever. Give me some some hardcore reasoning behind it as well. So then we move on to Liverpool versus Manchester City, it's a mouth-watering game. It's the two teams that won the league the last 2 years. At the moment, it's 7 points difference, but Man City have a game in hand, so it could potentially be 10. This is why it's such a crucial and a bad defeat for Liverpool in their last game, because if they did win that game, there'd be 4 points difference going into this game. Go and win that game, it goes down to a point, and then it puts pressure on Man City for that game in hand. But now it's 7 points with a game in hand. If Man City go and beat Liverpool, it's 10 points and a game in hand, and then you'll say categorically Liverpool are out of it. It would probably be a 2-horse race, maybe 3-horse race with Leicester as well. You never know, anything can happen in this crazy season. So actually I wouldn't put even when Man City were going through that spell of getting 100 points back-to-back league titles, every time they went to Anfield I never put them as favourites, I always put Liverpool as favourites, but given the fact that Liverpool are so depleted and so inconsistent at the moment, I'm actually going to put Man City as favourites in this game, even though they're away at Anfield. Moving on to Sheffield United versus Chelsea. Now, obviously, Sheffield United are actually in good form at the moment. Picked up 3 wins in the last 5. They've now closed that gap. They're obviously a bit more confidence and more like their old selves, similar to sort of last season. But having said that, Chelsea, since Tuchel's come in, haven't conceded a goal. Picked up 7 points from a possible 9 as well, and they're looking pretty strong as well. So I expect this to be quite a tight affair, given the fact that Sheffield United don't concede many goals, don't normally get beaten too heavily. So I expect Chelsea to maybe nick this by the odd goal again. And then moving on to the Monday game, which is Leeds versus Crystal Palace. Now, in the reverse of this game, leading into the game, everyone thought Leeds would win this game because Palace weren't in the best form and Leeds were in terrific form. And in actual fact, Crystal Palace put a clinic on and won 4-1 in that game, and there was obviously loads of dubious VAR moments with the Bamford goal, which we've discussed before. I expect this to be another sort of high-scoring affair actually, because both teams, I think the type of players that Crystal Palace have got will favour the way that Leeds go at it, because they won't score on every attack, because Crystal Palace are relatively resolute defensively, relatively, not always. But then they've got the personnel on transition with Zaha, Eze, Townsend, Schlupp if he's fit, Batshuayi, Ayew, all these types of players on transition. They can really kill any team. I mean, United witnessed that first game of the season as well. So I expect this to be, don't want to say a concrete result, but I'm just going to say goals in this game. So guys, going to move on to results are in. So representing the rest of the world this time round, should I say, is one of my old neighbours. His name's Jack East. He's a good old boy actually. I've known Jack for years. He's a good lad. He's got some good banter now and a good laugh and stuff, and had a good catch up on Instagram the other day actually. It was quite good. So yeah, he's representing the rest of the world this time round. Run through the scores and then we'll see how we got on. So first game, Sheffield United versus West Brom. I've gone Sheffield United 2-1. He's gone for 1-1. Straight away, guys, I've picked up 5 points. I'm absolutely buzzing with that. And Jack picks up 0, so not the best start for him, but plenty of time to turn it around. Jack is an Arsenal fan as well, by the way, guys. So we've actually had quite a few Arsenal fans on. So maybe I need to diversify a little bit. Wolves versus Arsenal. I've gone for a 2-1 Arsenal. He's gone for 2-0 Arsenal. Wolves have won this game 2-1, so nil what for both. Man United versus Southampton. I went for 2-1 Man United. He went for 3-1 Man United. He finished 9-0 to Man United. So 2 points apiece. None of us are picking up 5 there, guys. Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. We both went for a Desmond. We went for a 2-2. And it finished 2-1 to Crystal Palace. So again, 0 points apiece. Burnley versus Manchester City. I went for a close affair. I went for a 1-0 win for Manchester City. He went for a more clinical dispatchment for Manchester City, winning 4-1. Either way, we both picked up 2 points there. Fulham versus Leicester. I went for Fulham to lose at home, Leicester to win 2-1, so squeaky one if you like. He went for a 0-0 in that game, so I don't know why. Maybe just completely random. So I picked up 2, he's picked up 0. I did question him with some of these results. I gave him some sticks thinking, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? But he proves me right later on. Watch this, guys. Leeds versus Everton. Now, I went for a 2-2 in this game. Jack went for an Everton win, 1-0. So he's picked up 2, I picked up 0. So that's his first sort of comeback, if you like, in terms of outlandish games. I went for Villa West Ham to 2-2 in this game. I didn't actually say Villa, did you? For 2-2. He went for West Ham to win 2-1. So again, he's proved me wrong there. So he's picked up another 2 points. That's back-to-back 2s for him. Liverpool versus Brighton. I went for Liverpool to win 3-1. He went for Liverpool 2, Brighton 3, guys. So again, he's come back with a vengeance after that sort of 0-0 Fulham Leicester game. He's come back with 2-2-2. So yeah, another 2 for Jack there and 0 for me. And then the last game, Spurs versus Chelsea. I've gone for 2-1 Chelsea. He's gone for a Desmond, a 2-2. So I picked up 2 and he's picked up 0. So scores on the doors are as follows. I've picked up 13 points, which is decent enough. And then Jack has picked up 10 points for the rest of the world, which is decent enough as well. Now that moves the scores on to, bearing in mind last game week where Gertz reduced the lead quite a bit, I've just edged it back. I've nicked some of them points back again this week. So the rest of the world has moved from the rest of the world has moved from 140 to 150, so 10 points. And then I've moved from 145 up to 158 there, guys. So I'll just edge that lead a little bit more, so it's back up to 8 points. But like we say every week, chops and changes, it can go up, it can go down, etc. We'll obviously have another guest on next week, guys. In actual fact, I'll tell you who it is now, although I can't guarantee it will be him, but I think it'll be Jack's older brother, Tom. Trying to get him involved as well, so a bit of sibling rivalry there as well, if you like. Yeah, guys, that concludes another episode of the Premier League Appetiser. So, like I touched on earlier, please hit the subscribe button. Try and tell as many people as possible. We're trying to grow the channel as quick as we can. Really want to try and build the channel for all types of people, not just the South Asian community, but all types of community. Anyone that's interested in football, wants to talk football, and wants to get involved in the indie versus the rest of the world as well, please, if you want to get involved, contact me, direct message me on Instagram. Happy for you to partake in that as well, not a problem at all. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see everyone on the other side.